All right, now, next, moving swiftly, we would like to welcome Jenny Lee, Head of Growth of WeLab, and Shalini Sujanani from ING, and James McKeogh from KPMG. So please come up and take the stage. The reason we have this threesome here is that James is a fintech expert. Shalini is also involved in fintech and made an investment in Jenny's company, WeLab. So please.
We were going to mix it up a bit.
Fine.
Everybody's been sitting over that side.
All right, you
we
can
didn't
sit
want
over there
to.
then. That's
but
fine.
it does mean the person with the cards has also got to go over that side, otherwise I can't see them.
Yeah, the video is going to move to the other side. All right, great.
Okay,
All yours, James.
You know now, one of us is a consultant. And I bet you think it's the one in the tie. Well, yeah, you would be right. But enough from me. I think it's a case of let me introduce my two guests. In fact, even better, why don't they introduce themselves? Jenny, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and WeLab?
Okay, sure. So I joined WeLab about 2 years ago, and before that I was in investment banking, and I really craved for some operational experience, and I was lucky I came across an opportunity at WeLab. So at WeLab, what we're trying to do is, reinvent financial services, and I can go into a bit detail later, but reinventing financial services by leveraging data analytics and trying to provide a very seamless and efficient process for our customers, for people who want access to affordable credit. And this is all done over your mobile phone.
Fantastic, reinvention. So let's go to the old guard. Shalini, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, it's lovely to be here today. It's really my first time to be in an event like this. So in terms of background, I think it's important to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about ING before we start. Well, I'm an old traditional banker. James, you're not the only one in a suit today.
I'm an old traditional consultant.
And so obviously it's really fascinating to be here with all the sort of young stars that are coming up and to be part of this. In terms of fintech, I mean, Rebecca, I actually don't run the fintech business at ING. We have a head of fintech. But I think in terms of what we've been doing, the culture within ING is always to be thinking forward. And I think it goes into, back to the 90s when we actually started the first direct bank, ING Direct. So we've always been looking at innovating. It's part of our culture. And, that goes across all the various businesses, not just in terms of retail banking, but also in corporate and investment banking. And, I'll tell you a little bit more about our story with WeLab, how we met them, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, because I think it's quite an interesting one, taking the old outside, but it is the traditional banking side of things coming together with sort of a reinvention of financial services. What did you have to do to actually make yourself attractive to somebody like ING and want them to partner with you?
So I think usually people think peer-to-peer lending whenever fintech and lending are mentioned, but that's not what we do. We're not a peer-to-peer platform, but what we focus on and what we're really passionate about is our credit technology and finding a new way to underwrite quality assets by analyzing the data that customers share with us. And with this data, we can analyze a customer's behavior in seconds and decide whether or not we're going to lend this person money. So some of the interesting things we do, or examples would be, depending on the time of day the person applies, whether it's the morning or in the middle of the night, or even how you fill out your application form. Is it in all caps or small letters? So those are things that helps us understand the customer behavior a bit better and helps us make credit decisions. So I think with that, it's our focus on credit technology, our ability to underwrite quality assets that allows us to partner with banks instead of having to compete with them.
Putting the customer first. The banks have been trying to do that for ages, Shalini. But really, was it these kind of attributes? Surely this is more of a threat than something you should be working with.
Well, I think certainly fintech, banks can look at it as a big threat to their business. I think that in terms of our own position towards this, we look at it as ultimately it's, the customer drives our decisions. We want to provide our customers with a very sort of clear product. We want to be able to deliver that quickly. We want to deliver that on a low-cost basis. So either as banks, you can sit back and, be, as our CEO puts it, a train track or part of the train. And I think in terms of what we're doing at ING, we definitely want to be, a train. We want to be the provider. We want to have the primary relationship with clients. And when we look at WeLab, as we do with other partnerships, that's what we effectively try and gauge from each other is, what the attributes that they have, the strengths that they have, what we can bring to the table and collaborate. Unlike some of the other banks, we don't have a VC fund where we invest for the sake of investing. We've entered into about 40 partnerships. WeLab is one of them. We've also, acquired a stake in another fintech company called Cabbage. And how we partner with them, we've actually introduced, their credit technology into our business in Spain, which is part of the direct business that I mentioned earlier. And with WeLab, we're going to explore what we can do together. So we'll see how that evolves over time.
Now, Jenny, Shalini used the P word an awful lot. Partnership. Is it really a partnership? Are you really working together, or are you working for them?
Well, so if I think about some of the challenges we've had as a business, I think in my role, a lot of times I want to help the company make sure that we're staying ahead in a very, very fast-paced industry. So in terms of technology or operations, making sure our product is differentiated enough, or is the user experience the best it can be. So I think with that, ING as a partner, a bank that's trying to innovate within as well as pushing innovation externally, there's a lot we can learn from them. I think fintech doesn't have to be about replacing banks, but we should all work together to make the financial system a lot more efficient. So I think there's definitely a lot of areas where we can explore in terms of idea sharing. Banks offer a full suite of financial products, and so there's a lot we can learn from them.
It all sounds wonderful and rosy, but there must have been some challenges that was going on along the way as you started working together. Jenny, maybe from your perspective first, what were some of the barriers or problems that you had to overcome when starting to work with ING?
So maybe I'll just touch upon even before being able to work with ING. I think as a business in general, a young business, we had a lot of challenges in terms of hiring the right talent. People who have a good mix of finance or tech experience, those people like to work with banks, want to work for a bank because they like the stability and security that a big organization offers. So that was challenging, but I think we're lucky to have been able to have formed such a strong management team with people with finance and tech experience, with an entrepreneurial spirit, with over 15 and 20 years of experience. And that obviously doesn't include me, because if you do the math, 15 and 20 years of experience would mean that I have to be 10 by the time I started. But we're lucky that we have been able to form a strong management team. I think with a strong management team, we're able to attract investor attention.
Fantastic. What about from your side though, Shalini?
Again, I think our journey with WeLab, it didn't happen overnight. We met back in 2013 with the founder, Simon. And, I think in terms of what appealed to us about WeLab was, again, what's foremost in terms of our own, what we're after, which is good customer experiences. We want to be able to deliver that. And certainly what we saw from WeLab was the ability to differentiate in customer experiences. So one wants to learn from that, and through those discussions and through that dialogue, you're able to eventually come to the point that we are today, where we are looking at developing further the relationship.
Yeah, sure. There's a number of entrepreneurs out there right now, probably with their own companies. Maybe not in the fintech, but maybe in telco space or in some other kind of industry. What kind of advice would you give them if they're looking to establish a relationship with a large corporate partner?
I think something I observe every day with the people I work with, including our founder and my colleagues, is, whether it's trying to work with a corporate partner or trying to get anything done, I think I see a lot of persistence, and you never take no for an answer. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, but I think I see it happen every day where, we just push forward and trying to get things done.
And what about from the perspective of there's a lot of other big banks out there, and they're not necessarily thinking outside the box or as innovative as ING. What would you say to them, Shalini?
Well, I think all the banks are competing equally, and ultimately it's all about the customer. It's what I started with, and it's what I end with. When we look at what WeLab's doing today, it is about that. And we have to ensure that we are transparent, that we're able to deliver effectively, and we're going to have to adapt. And I think that's one of the challenges that banks do face today, and we have to make sure that we are innovative. And I think we are doing. We're looking at that through different avenues in terms of innovating, with our own innovative boot camps, with the way we're organizing ourselves today. So I think it's keep it simple, keep it transparent, and think of the customer first.
So, going to ask you both now to dig into your pockets and pull out your crystal ball. What do you see going for yourself over the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see this relationship going?
Hopefully, very strongly. And I'm still sitting next to Shalini in 3 to 5 years.
Big gap, though, I'm noticing. Big gap. I think that was actually left for me, but the gap had to be a bit bigger.
Certainly, I think a wonderful partnership. And now if I can wear back my traditional corporate banking hat, we're expecting WeLab to do wonderful things, and to be part of that process too.
Well, I think that's fantastic. I think it's great to see, as you say, for me, the Davids and the Goliaths working together and sort of, as you say, reinventing financial services. Jenny, Shalini, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you, James.
Great. Thank you so much.